Hi, thank you for clicking on my video. My name is Renee and I wanted to film myself reading out an essay that I wrote. This was actually originally a series of journal entries after some unfortunate encounters, targeted attacks, and I really enjoyed journaling and writing this out, and so I thought I would type it up and read it out and see if it resonated with anyone. I've been told that I am polarizing, so you're probably either gonna love or hate this and me, but just remember you're only seeing me through a screen. But I certainly do have haters in real life, which is kind of what this video essay is about. So yeah, let me just clear my throat. My delicious calming tea. And I have the essay on the screen as well, so I'll be reading from that. The reason that I critique, question, and evaluate Christianity, which I use as an umbrella term for Christian branches of religion, is because I was raised and indoctrinated into their beliefs the most throughout my childhood. I went to Sunday school, I was dedicated to God at Salvation Army Church in my preschool and primary school years, as well as partaking in the optional religious education classes in my public primary school. Then from year 7 to year 9, I went to a Catholic girls' college. From years 10 to 12, I went to a select entry specialist science school. So I'm not exactly talking out of my ass when I talk about Christianity on our podcast, although it is simply only my opinion or interpretation. I never claim to know the absolute truth, only my truth. I had my first spiritual awakening at 9 years old. I remember reading about Buddhism in my school library and being totally transformed. I remember having my parents put me down as Buddhist in one of the census. My dad took me to a local temple, and we had what felt like a spiritual practice of devoting ourselves to the ocean every year down at Phillip Island for 2 weeks. What's key here is that I grew up in a spiritually diverse household. My mom was an atheist, my sister was an agnostic, and Dad enjoyed talking about Jesus and Buddha with me, but never claimed a spiritual rigid status, like a church. I remember dark periods followed by spiritual breakthroughs at around age 14, and really every year that followed pushed me and challenged me in ways that made me feel more and more that life was a spiritual experience entirely. I think I felt most spiritually attuned with a empathetic connection to everything around me when I was in early to mid primary school. However, that did not always serve my best interest. In grade 4, I had a teacher, Miss G, that made me and my friends feel a level of constant anxiety that altered my perception of the world. One of my closest friends wet her pants next to me because she was too scared to ask to go to the toilet. I had to go up to the teacher and tell her what had happened in hushed words. I can feel the anxiety in the way I write. The year before, in grade 3, I had a meeting with my teacher, Miss B, and my parents, or at least my mum was there, and Miss B said that I need to stop writing in cursive, which is how I was naturally inclined, because we don't learn that until grade 4. So from then on, I had internalized that, and I struggled against my natural inclinations because it didn't fit the norm, the expectations, the timeline. And I feel that in my hand as I struggle to stick with one writing style, and I hold a lot of tension in my pen to this day. I imagine then my mum's experience when she was told by the nuns at school that she wasn't allowed to use her left hand when writing, her natural dominant hand, because that was the devil. She would be punished for doing what comes naturally to her by the nuns, who were using physical punishment to enforce their beliefs onto children. So that was the background, going now into my beliefs as of right now. I am not separate from nature. I am nature. Therefore, I am God. I am goddess. The church is the illusion that God is separate from us, gatekept by men. My ancestors have told me that what happens when the church infiltrated their communities. They stole their children, people, land, culture, and languages. The church aimed to demonize their spirituality. My ancestors who lived closely with the land and followed the cycles of Mother Nature. There is a war in my mind and in society between domination and solidarity. I have decided that I don't need the validation of fitting into their idea of what I should be. I'm free from the mold that they tried to force on me. My ancestors assimilated for survival, but I hear them telling me it's safe now to openly practice our spirituality once again. It never went away, it just went quiet, secret, and ashamed. It may be hard to picture what that looks like, considering the diversity of lands and oceans which my ancestors come from. However, I believe that spirituality is very personal and dynamic. I've been finding truths and holding close what resonates with me since I was a child. Now that has developed into an evolving spiritual practice that enriches my daily life. Every breath, every moment is sacred. My sexuality is sacred, not shameful. Those that try to project their shame onto me are afraid of the power of female sexuality. I do not subscribe to the idea that the way my body naturally exists is something to be ashamed of. I do not need to perform femininity by removing my body hair. My hair holds power and purpose. My body is part of the sacred design of life. Those that benefit from making you feel the need to change yourself to be accepted have not been able to accept themselves. Therefore, domination gives them a false sense of power. My power comes from a higher source. It comes from within. It's encoded in my DNA and it is in the stars. A woman who stands in her power is a very real threat to the multi-billion-dollar industries that profit off manufacturing insecurities. Capitalism and patriarchy have dominated for far too long. It's time for us to choose solidarity, to look to both men, women, and non-binary folk as leaders and bring back the village. Individualism and isolation is profitable. Community is where we regain our power. However, the pain and fear of burning at the stake for not conforming lingers in my DNA and still causes me to bite my tongue when the room feels unsafe. However, I know that I speak with the strength and wisdom of my matriarchs who know the system all too well. Of early childhood memories of my mom telling me that religion is the government's way of controlling the masses. The discernment to hold that truth while also acknowledging that I'm a spiritual being is something that I have had to develop over time. Those who are most threatened by me are usually those who place their self-worth on their ability to dominate. I am wild and free. I am a demonstration of the uncontrollable forces of nature. I'm governed by the moon and the stars, not by men in suits. My body is sovereign, not a political playground. I have no qualms with those that wish to dedicate their lives to worshipping a male deity, the one that they call God, capital G. My issue is with those that feel emboldened to tell me that my worship of the feminine, goddess, and the forces which create life on earth is wrong. I've been called a heathen, accused of being in cahoots with the devil, anti-establishment, man-hating, disgusting slut witch. These are carefully constructed narratives aimed to disempower me, but I do not subscribe to their stories. I tell my own. This is my truth, and speaking it sets me free.